I'm very, very excited actually to bring up two gentlemen who are very well known and regarded in the world of real estate. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Ram Chandnani. He's the MD Advisory and Transaction Services India from CBRE, and Mr. Anshul Jain, MD India and Southeast Asia from Cushman and Wakefield. Now, I'm very excited to have both these gentlemen on the panel, and to speak to them, I would like to invite back Mr. Sahil, who will discuss two very, very important things around the future of real estate. One is future of workspaces, and the second is when are we getting ready to go back to office? Over to you, Sahil.
I have heard both of you individually over the past couple of months, and I've been very intrigued to hear your inputs and to get your thoughts on things as we navigate this very extremely challenging time, as people call it. Um, uh, Guys, Ram and Anshul need no introduction at all. Let me straight dive into engaging both of them on a couple of top of mind themes that I'm guessing are there for everyone, both in the business and those who are not in the business as well. So, Ram, let me start with you. I'd love to get your perspective on the back to office theme. With lockdown restrictions now obviously easing, while mostly the office asset owners and occupiers are getting ready to move back to office slowly. What advice would you give to both asset owners as well as occupiers as they look to move back into the office?
Uh, from a back to work perspective, I think very importantly, I would say the employee behavior framework and building in confidence to the employee is very important. From a leadership perspective, the occupier, and I'll start with the occupier bit and then come to the developer bit. I think there needs to be faith, there needs to be flexibility, they need to be alert, they need to inspire their employees, they need to be transparent and communicate and make sure that the employee health and well-being is taken care of. So I would use the word faith as the main theme for bringing back employees to the work, to the work, to the work environment. But more importantly, the developer equally has to create and communicate with his tenant partners, whether it's a standalone building, whether it's a multi-tenanted building, or a larger campus environment. The key is that partnership between the developer and the tenant has to dramatically increase. The communication has to dramatically increase for both the developer and the occupier to be confident to come back to the work environment. I can go on and on,
Thank
but
you, Ram.
this is the main theme from communication, collaboration. The organizations have to make sure that the communication with the employees are dramatically enhanced in terms of engagement. While many organizations are still evaluating on what percentage of workforce gets back to work in these times, uh, and it's predominantly focused on the critical people who really have to access the work environment. But majority of the occupiers, from a safety perspective, are looking at employees working more remotely in these times.
No,
But
absolutely.
that
Thanks, Ram. Ram, just very difficult to answer, but in your assessment and as you interact with so many occupiers, how do you see, when do you see occupiers getting back to work? Is it a gradual, obviously, we'll anticipate it to be a gradual, but how do you see that over the next couple of months? I know it's a tough question, but what's your sense?
it is depending from organization to organization, Sahil. In some cases, we've seen between 5 and 10% percent of people go back, the employees go back to work in some cases. Some of the governments have come back and said 50% of your workforce can go back to work. Obviously, with the number of cases increasing in the last few weeks, the companies who started actually having their employees go back to work have pulled back in some sense of saying, let's hold on. We will anyway be able to deliver what we can. And it's only critical people who are being asked to go back to work, again, with all the safety precautions, etc. So it's still early days on what occupiers will strategize to make sure they go back. Some people run 24 by 7 operations. Some people run delivery centers and they have commitments to clients. So the obvious importance is, and in the last few months, technology enhancements are been really the focus for occupiers to be able to get their employees to work more remotely. So while these strategies have been put in place and all the sanitization enhancements have been done in the work environment, whether it's social distancing, whether it's assigned seating, whether it's looking at air quality, I'm not going to get into those details, but everyone's familiar with that. But I think the key is that the confidence that the management is giving their employees is very important. And obviously, the percentage of people will come when it's critical for them to be in the office environment. But it is going to take a while for them to return to work. Majority of the large corporations are making sure that their employees are able to deliver a lot more remotely in these times. We can go on the debate on the benefits of getting back to office, and I'm happy to touch upon that because there are many, many benefits of working in a collaborative environment rather than working more remotely. Mental challenges, mental health, etc. For our millennial workforce that we have in India.
So thanks, Ram. Just hold on to that thought. Let me jump to Anshul now. Anshul, what do you? The question that everyone's asking, and I think in my house, people are sick of me asking this question and discussing it all the time. But the question is, are people ever going to go back to the office full time? And has the work from home model disrupted the office space as we know it? And before you answer, I have to put a caveat in there is that a lot of people say to me, the pro disruption theory, protagonist, they say everyone who you ask is from the industry and thus has got a very inside in view of the industry and there's therefore will not be able to see disruption coming. And disruption usually comes from outside the industry. So I'll put that as a question. But the question is, will office space exist in the future? And do people will people go back to office at all?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Sahil. I think you've been in the your family's been in the medical business, right? And the typical reaction of people when the doctors tell you something and they ask you to get 5 or 6 tests and prescribe your medicine is to say, well, I mean, the trust is missing, right? And therefore, I think I draw a similar parallel, although I think a pretty poor example is when an industry expert talks about something. I think there's some data and some knowledge that is to it, but I do hesitate talking too much about debunking the work from home theory because typically people say, well, you are in the industry, you benefit from it, so we'll talk about it. Nevertheless, I think there are a number of data points that we can actually talk about. And I start with the future is the answer in the age group of millennials and Gen Zs. Overwhelmingly, they said that work from home has actually not given them the experience, satisfaction, or the knowledge of working, of actually gaining and feeling that they've done something productive and they've learned a lot, right? Because they are not used to working in isolation. Now you top that. Now this was US, right? And most probably, if you look at this generation, they're living in small quarters. They don't have lavish houses. Either they're living with their parents or they're in shared accommodation. You then transpose that to Asia. That becomes even more stark. You come to India, there are infrastructural problems. Just today, where I live, there was a cable cut because of some construction work in some house. No internet for whole day is what folks back home tell me. Load shedding, talking and the whole kind of data dropping. Those are massive issues, right? Which people haven't thought through. The second issue that people haven't thought through. So the first is what millennials want, and that's the most important thing because the second is the problems that they face, right? The third thing is cost of working from home. Now, I don't think people have actually properly analyzed this. What are the cost in terms of broadband cost, the home office setup? Is the company going to give home office or not? And clearly liability issues, right? I mean, are there any liabilities of people sort of working from home, right? So there's some sort of massive, I think, data points which come out of this, which has not really been examined completely. And lastly, I think there's been lots said around productivity as people work from home. But but at the end of the day, I think what it'll do is it'll create more flexibility everywhere, for people, and the use of technology is going to get integrated. Whether we are going to get disrupted from the left field, I don't see this as a massive transformation where 50% of the workforce will start working from home. I really do not think it's possible. By the way, America has tested this work from home back in the zeros. And most of the companies actually called back people because they saw loss of productivity over a period of time. Now, technology has changed that definitely, but not to that extent. So I think maybe 10 to 20% changes in work from, in flexibility where people will work from home. But clearly, if you look at India and you counterbalance that with, the need for social distancing. And as you know, in our buildings, we were packing people to 50, 60 square foot per person. Now that's going to change. So I think there is a lot to be said in there about the need for office. And I really remain extremely positive. I'll be around next year, 2 year, few years. And I'm really happy to be challenged on that.
Thanks, Anshul. I hope your team's listening to you so that their leasing targets can they can stick to those this year. And
no, of course, no. This year is I didn't say that. I think I'm talking about the trend, right? I mean, this year is clearly an issue, which I think we all need to overcome. There's no doubt about that, and this issue may go into early next year as well, but it's a short-term issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ram, Anshul spoke about and the whole concept of this. The office space not being redundant in the medium to long term. Do you feel that the nature of offices are going to change? Anshul touched upon the de-densification in a sense. Do you also believe that?
I think in the immediate to short term, you won't see corporates changing their entire workplace or redesigning it right away. A lot of corporates are looking to wait and watch the situation over the next 6 months. And this year, they will continue to focus on evaluating what really happens to the COVID situation, ensuring that their employees are able to deliver remotely with whatever technology support they need in terms of technical assistance, laptop issues, etc., bandwidth issues. And obviously, as Anshul mentioned, the reality in India is not everyone has a cohesive work environment within their homes to be able to deliver. A lot of younger people share accommodation. A lot of people are newly married and they don't necessarily have a home office like the Western culture. And historically, when companies in India actually let people work from home, it was more a paid holiday. Ki bhaiya ghar pe kaam karna hai, I need to do some stuff. It was more like work from home. I'll log in and do some stuff. And you saw a lot of restrictions there. Today, companies will formulate formal strategies to be able to work remotely. The investment in technology is dramatically going to go up for people to work from home. It's cheaper to actually get people and put all the technology in an office and bring them all to one place rather than actually having remote technologies for everyone on their laptops or desktops. No doubt about it. You look at cost for transportation, you talk about food, and we've heard multiple that. The cost of technology enhancements to be able to deliver more remotely is going to increase for occupiers to then look at more work from anywhere rather than work from home. Effectively, I don't know if you remember, we released a report last year that spoke about hoteling and working from anywhere. And that was the future trend from a technology enhancements in the year 2025, 30. Obviously, that's hastened up in terms of this pandemic's really taught us to really look at that model right now to be able to deliver. And you will see corporates looking at different strategies. They will look at employee demographics. They look at how employees commute to work, because location strategies will dramatically change how corporates look at their overall real estate strategy. They look at hub and spoke models going forward. So different corporates, depending on their different businesses, will look at different strategies. De-densification, looking at what Anshul touched upon, saying you're obviously not going to have 50, 60 square feet per person. The typical national building code really says 1:100 square feet if you translate it, but how many people have really followed it? The question is how much of me space was allocated between employees to create. So the organizations truly believe that while in these times, because you want to make sure that people have to remain safe, have to literally work out of home or more virtually. But in the long run, companies do realize they have to bring people back. They may not have to come back every day to work, but they will come back to work, collaborate, communicate, and they could have different rooster methods of getting people back, etc. So different strategies will be followed by different organizations, depending on the kind of organization and what kind of work they're going to deliver.
No, fantastic. No, thank you very much, Ram. Thank you, Anshul. I just wanted to also say that, it's been incredible, the support that both of you individually and your organizations have given and are championing this cause of truly work well that we are looking to bring to the people of NCR. So thank you once again, not just for your being here, but for your being a true partner to the Max Group. I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ram and Anshul.
Thank you, Sahil.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Over to you, Anshul.
Thank you so much, Sahil. Also, thank you, Ram, and thank you, Anshul.